I rejected the arranged marriage proposed by my family and married Sophia, who came from a poor background. After we got married, however, she cheated on me. She used my money to support her lover and even orchestrated a car accident to try to kill me. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day I confessed to her. She looked at me with disdain, saying I was uneducated and only knew how to rely on my family's wealth. I smiled faintly, turned around, and left, saying that's fine. I was just playing around with you anyway. She began to panic. The story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to subscribe. After the car accident, I struggled for a full hour before I finally stopped breathing. During that hour, Sophia never showed up. My soul hovered in the air, watching as she arrived late, kneeling on the ground and crying her heart out. She looked like a poor woman who couldn't bear the loss of her loved one, and everyone present was moved by her display. But as soon as she turned around, she was in David's arms, laughing coldly and maliciously. He's finally dead. It was so hard to kill him, but now no one can stop us anymore. Watching the two of them entwined in bed, I desperately wanted to strangle them with my own hands. This woman, with a heart as venomous as a snake, had been treated so well by me, yet I ended up with such a fate. I couldn't accept it, truly I couldn't. Perhaps from the moment I discovered her infidelity 6 months ago, she had already decided to kill me. Or maybe she had always wanted me dead and just hadn't had the chance. After I found out about her cheating, I offered her a divorce and the freedom to leave. I didn't insist on keeping her by my side. But she knelt at my feet, begging me to give her another chance, claiming she loved me and that David had seduced her, causing her to act impulsively. She blamed me for not spending enough time with her, which led to her loneliness and mistakes. Looking at her pitiful face, I couldn't bear to blame her. I reflected on myself and chose to forgive her, never expecting that this decision would cost me my life. A month ago, the nanny was deliberately fired by Sophia. She claimed she wanted to take care of me personally to make up for her mistakes. Then came the gas leak, kitchen fire, and refrigerator electrocution. None of it was an accident. I always thought she was just clumsy, not intentional, but I was wrong. No wonder she said, "He's really hard to kill." Olivia, the woman I had rejected for the arranged marriage, fainted from crying at my memorial service, asking the police to investigate the truth. But Sophia kicked her out, saying, "Who do you think you are to meddle? You're just the woman James didn't want." My resentment reached its peak. God told me that I had done good deeds in my life and that my fate was not to die. After a whirl of dizziness, I opened my eyes again and was back to the day I confessed to Sophia. "James, do you think you're so great just because you have money? Can't you stop bothering me? You're uneducated and just a leech." "I despise people like you the most," Sophia said, openly belittling me in front of the onlookers. I smiled and responded with disdain, "I have the confidence because I can take over the company right after graduation. And you? You have to struggle for survival and work your hardest. Don't like me? That's fine. I was just playing around with you anyway." I threw the flowers in my hand into the trash can and walked away without looking back. James must be really angry this time. The young master has been chasing Sophia for 3 years, like a dog licking her feet. He must have some resentment, someone commented. "I bet James will just be angry for a while and will be back chasing Sophia in less than 3 days, another person said. "That's not certain. Sophia, it looks like Mr. James has given up on you. You'll definitely regret it," someone else added. "I wish you would stay as far away from me as possible," Sophia's cold voice came from behind, devoid of any warmth. "James, how long do you plan to ignore her this time?" My close friend from the dormitory put his arm around my shoulder. "For the rest of my life," I replied after a brief silence. "I don't believe it. Not just him, but no one would believe it." I, the wealthy heir of the James family, had been pursuing Sophia for 3 years, protecting her for 3 years, and almost going mad for her. It was common knowledge. Sophia had no parents and lived with her twin brother, Mark. She was able to attend this school only because of her top scores in the province and government subsidies. No one in the school looked up to her except me, James. From the first moment I saw Sophia, I was captivated by her pure and beautiful face, trying every means to get her attention and win her favor. They say love starts with physical attraction, and I don't deny that I loved her because of her looks, while ignoring her venomous heart. When she first enrolled, she faced a lot of disdain and bullying. I followed her around, teaching everyone who bullied her a lesson until no one dared to do so anymore. Everyone knew that Sophia had my backing. I pursued her openly and confidently, boasting that I would make her my girlfriend within 3 months. I thought Sophia would climb up the tree with me and become a phoenix, but who would have thought she remained indifferent, even disgusted with me? Sophia looked down on me for being uneducated and solving everything with money. She said we were from different worlds. Sophia despised me but took it for granted that she enjoyed the good I did for her. I sent her money every month, and she claimed it was a voluntary gift from me, unrelated to her. I fought with people outside school who harassed her, and her first reaction was to distance herself. James, I never asked for your help. It's always been your one-sided assumption. She spent my money, wore the clothes I bought, and carried the bags I purchased, yet she never wanted to be with me. For an entire week, I ignored Sophia. She went from being indifferent to slightly panicked because without me, Sophia and her brother had no source of living expenses. But her stubbornness and pride made her refuse to bow down to me, even if it meant eating steamed buns every day. Even if Sophia had bowed down, I wouldn't have given her any help. I'd rather spend that time feeding stray cats and dogs, at least they would wag their tails at me. I donated the money I used to give her every month to a charity and used part of it to buy cat and dog food to feed the strays around the neighborhood. Everyone thought James had been hurt by Sophia and now spent his days with cats and dogs. 2 months later, Mark found me. It was Sophia's usual trick, she would never bow down herself but was good at using others. How ridiculous, she couldn't hold out for long. Mark greeted me with a smile, trying to put his arm around my shoulder, but I pushed him away, a hint of embarrassment flashing across his face. James, what's going on between you and my sister lately? I'm out of living expenses, and she won't let me ask you for money. I was amused by his audacity, the first time I'd seen someone so shameless. Why should I care that you're out of money? I supported you and your sister because I was in a good mood. Now I don't want to, and that's that. Come on, James. You just want to chase my sister, right? I'll put in a good word for you with her, get her to be with you. I'm really running out of money. Don't joke around with me. Forget about my sister for now, just give me my living expenses, will you? Who's joking? Why should I give you money? I'm not your father. Where do you get the nerve to ask me for money? Mark's face turned red immediately. James, don't play the righteous man. Everyone knows your little schemes. You just want to date my sister. Don't pretend to be so noble. You're stingy and yet you act like some domineering boss chasing a girl. What are you pretending for? I looked straight at Mark, my face full of disdain, and said even if your sister were to throw herself at me now, I wouldn't want her. I'd rather take care of my cats and dogs than support you two wolves. Your sister sent you, right? Acting like a saint while being a harlot. Trying to have it both ways. Who are you calling a harlot? Mark lunged at me, ready to hit me, but I used a set of grappling moves to throw him to the ground and slapped him twice, his face swelling instantly. Since he had come to me, I decided to settle all old and new accounts at once. In my previous life, after Sophia married me, she was a typical manipulator and didn't hesitate to use her brother. At first, Mark seemed to respect me on the surface, but later he didn't take me seriously at all. Mark had no abilities, but Sophia would cry, make a scene, and threaten suicide, forcing me to arrange a management position for Mark in my company. Relying on the relationship that he was my brother-in-law, Mark acted recklessly in the company, interfering with employees' normal work and harassing female colleagues, causing great distress to everyone. It wasn't until more and more female employees resigned that I found out what Mark had been up to. I decided to fire him, but he promised repeatedly that he wouldn't cause any more trouble. He then complained to Sophia, saying I was interfering with his pursuit of girls and that it must be because I was interested in those girls. After that, he became even more arrogant, accepting bribes from a competing company and selling company secrets, causing the company to lose millions of dollars. Considering Sophia's sake, I didn't pursue his criminal responsibility and just fired him. But Sophia still cried and blamed me for being unfair to her brother. In the end, she secretly took money to buy Mark a fully paid house and car, and that matter was settled. I knew about it, but I loved Sophia, so I turned a blind eye and pretended not to know. Because of Mark, Sophia and I had multiple arguments about divorce, and each time I compromised. I felt sorry for her because she had no parents and relied on her brother. I also understood her familial bond with him. But Mark never knew how to restrain himself. He got into fights, acted lawlessly, and caused countless troubles, big and small, all of which I had to clean up. Not only did he not show gratitude, but he also claimed that his sister's things were his. He even had the audacity to say that my family's fortune would be his in the future. I don't know where he got the nerve to say such things. I am the only heir of the James family. After marrying Sophia, she didn't want to have children. She said she wanted to be child-free, fearing childbirth as if it were stepping one foot into the gates of hell. She was afraid of any mishaps happening to herself. Sophia looked at me with deep emotion and a face full of grievances. James, who is more important to you, me, or a child? Are you marrying a wife or a breeding machine? Does a complete life necessarily require a child? Anyway, I will never have children in my lifetime. If you can't accept that, let's get divorced. I loved Sophia. Although I knew that not having children was a disservice to my ancestors, I still stubbornly believed that in this life, one should live for themselves. If we didn't have children, we wouldn't be lonely with Sophia by my side. But later, Sophia was seen curled up in David's arms, living in my house, spending my money, sleeping in my bed, and discussing whether they should have a boy or a girl. After I put Mark in the hospital, Sophia found me and immediately accused me, asking if I had taken out my frustration from the failed confession on Mark. I laughed and said, "Why do you think you would affect my mood?" Sophia was furious, her face turning red as she said, "James, is this how you show your love for me? You beat up my brother like this. You've confessed to me so many times, and after just a few tests from me, you reveal your true colors. Even if I had to go pick trash on the street, I wouldn't need a single cent from you." I responded with disdain, "Correction, I don't love you. Chasing you recently was just out of boredom. If you go pick trash on the street, that's none of my business." Sophia was furious but helpless. As graduation approached, she had no place to live, no connections, and even struggled to survive. After leaving school, she couldn't afford to rent a house. I heard that she spent weekends handing out flyers and waiting tables to earn a living. Everyone was sure that the love struck me would soften, but would I? Didn't she cause me enough harm already? With my help, I could have arranged for her to work in my company after graduation, kept her close, and continued to pursue her like in school, catering to her every whim, being her loyal dog for another year. The reason I was able to marry Sophia in the first place was that Mark had injured someone, and the other party demanded $500,000 in compensation or threatened to sue and send him to jail. I paid off the debt for Mark, and Sophia agreed to marry me. At that time, Olivia had returned from abroad, and her family was planning to arrange a marriage between us. I didn't even glance at her before immediately rejecting the idea, willing to sever ties with my family just to be with Sophia. What I thought was a love that could move mountains and earth, for Sophia, might have been nothing more than a transaction from the very beginning. After marriage, Sophia became a full-time housewife. She fired the nanny and took care of my parents by cooking and doing household chores. I thought she was eager to show her dedication, and my parents were very touched by her efforts. Within just 2 years, my parents passed away one after another. Sophia stayed alone in the large villa, hired a nanny, and did nothing. She traveled, shopped, had no financial worries, and was never short of love. She had never suffered any grievances or hardships, yet she still betrayed me and tried to kill me. I couldn't understand what else she could possibly be dissatisfied with. A month later, we graduated from university, and I successfully took over the family business. Without my help, she would struggle to survive. I ran into Sophia again at a nightclub, where I was invited to a gathering with some friends. Sophia, wearing heavy makeup and a sexy short skirt, walked into the private room. After half a year, Sophia's stubbornness had diminished somewhat, her edges worn down by reality. It has to be said that she had a great figure. Her youthful face, enhanced with heavy makeup, had a unique charm. When Sophia saw me, a flicker of panic crossed her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. My friends, aware of my history with her, awkwardly turned to look at my reaction as soon as they saw Sophia. I took a sip of my drink and looked away. Sophia was left behind by my friends and seated next to me. I pointed to another girl sitting next to Sophia and said, "I'll take her." The girl next to Sophia smiled and scooted closer to me. I took out my wallet, pulled out $20,000, and handed it to the girl. "Fill up my drink, then take the money and leave. I don't like having people around me." The girl gratefully took the money, filled my drink, and hurriedly left. Sophia gave me a reluctant glance and followed her out the door. My friends gathered around, their faces full of curiosity. "James, are you deliberately trying to embarrass Sophia? Seeing her in this situation, aren't you heartbroken? Your company is so big, you could easily give her a position. It's better than working in this nightclub." I responded with a cold laugh. "Sophia is where she belongs because of her own choices. If I invited her to my company, I'd rather live a few more years." A friend curiously asked, "Is it just because Sophia rejected your confession and embarrassed you that you hate her so much?" I thought to myself, I can't tell them the real reason, that she killed me. Who would believe me? After seeing my friends off, I ran into Sophia in a corner. She was dressed in revealing clothes. She quietly looked at me and said with a tender expression, "James, long time no see." I glanced at Sophia and ignored her, preparing to walk past her and leave. A hint of awkwardness flashed in Sophia's eyes as she reached out and grabbed my sleeve. "James, were you just trying to embarrass me on purpose? Are you still angry with me for rejecting your confession back then?" "I'm sorry. You were so excellent, and I was just a poor girl with no parents, relying on my brother. The gap between us was too big. I didn't have the courage to be with you. I was afraid to climb too high. I blame myself for not having the courage to face my feelings. Now I realize that life is so short, we can't leave any regrets. I pushed her hand away with disgust, brushing off my sleeve where she had touched it. A flicker of disbelief crossed Sophia's eyes. Sophia, who gave you the confidence? Why do you think I would want a hostess? Even if you weren't a hostess, you wouldn't even be qualified to tie my shoes. What makes you think you could climb up to be James' wife? What kind of dream are you having? James, what's wrong with you? You never used to talk to me like this. I know I was wrong before. Give me a chance, okay? I've realized that I've already fallen in love with you. I was immature back then. Can we start over? Sophia said as she tried to hug me. In just a year, Sophia, who used to be arrogant and unapproachable, had completely changed. I pushed her away with disgust, telling her to stay away from me so she wouldn't dirty my clothes. I left without looking back, leaving her behind with her pitiful attempts to hold on. After returning home, my parents mentioned that Olivia was coming back to the country soon and hoped I could go pick her up and try to spend some time with her. For a moment, I was dazed. In my previous life, when Olivia returned, I had just resolved Mark's issue, and Sophia had already accepted my marriage proposal. It seemed that today, with Sophia working in the nightclub and trying to get back with me, everything was overlapping with what had happened before. My misfortune in the last life had also begun at this moment. Back then, I had firmly rejected the arranged marriage with Olivia, even refusing to meet her, and was determined to marry Sophia, which almost drove my parents to disown me. Olivia, however, generously said she understood and sincerely wished us well. Olivia's parents just shrugged and said the children have their own ideas, there's no need for too much interference. Eventually, my parents compromised, but within 2 years of Sophia marrying into our family, my parents passed away one after another due to illness. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but after being reborn and taking my parents for monthly medical checkups, I realized they were perfectly healthy. Looking back, after Sophia married into our family, she fired the nanny and took over all the cooking. My parents praised her for being filial and understanding, gradually changing their impression of her. After being reborn, I checked the dishes Sophia often cooked and found that almost all of them were food combinations that could be harmful. Eating lamb chops with watermelon and lotus seed soup could damage one's vital energy. Consuming shrimp, oranges, beef, and ginger together was as dangerous as arsenic. And combining peanuts with cucumber could harm the kidneys. This woman was really ruthless, killing without a trace. If I hadn't been young and healthy, I might have already died silently. I got goosebumps all over, cursing myself for not discovering her true nature earlier. I had invited a wolf into my home, destroyed my family, and harmed my parents. This time, without hesitation, I agreed to go pick up Olivia. This was the second time I saw Olivia since she grew up. The first time I saw her was at my memorial service. In my memory, she was the little girl who followed behind me, calling me big brother. Now, she walked towards me with a smiling face, already grown into a graceful young lady. She greeted me warmly, and I took her luggage, calling out softly, "Long time no see, little one." Olivia responded shyly, "James, I'm not a little one anymore. I'm already 24 years old." Looking at Olivia's earnest expression, I couldn't help but smile, thinking of the little girl who used to cry in my memory. I took Olivia out for a meal and drove her home. She happily shared with me her joyful journeys abroad over the years, her face beaming with happiness, just as lively and lovely as when she was a child. But in my eyes, Olivia was just like a younger sister. An arranged marriage? I had never considered it. As usual, I was in a company meeting when the secretary whispered into my ear, "Mr. James, there's a young lady downstairs who wants to see you. She doesn't have an appointment and refuses to leave, saying she's a friend of yours." I thought it was Olivia. This girl had just come back and didn't want to stay at home, always restless. So I instructed the secretary to bring her to my office and wait there. When I saw that it was Sophia, I couldn't help but feel annoyed. This woman was like a stubborn piece of glue that I couldn't get rid of. "Miss Sophia, what brings you here again? Leave now before you dirty the air in my office." Sophia looked at me with tears in her eyes and knelt down in front of me. With red eyes, she pleaded to James, "Please help my brother. He injured someone, and the other party is demanding $500,000 in compensation or they'll send him to prison. James, please help my brother. I'll do anything you ask. James, don't you remember you once said you would protect me for my entire life?" I looked at her with disgust and replied, "Miss Sophia, your brother deserves to go to jail for hurting someone. What's so grievous about that? Why should I help him? He should be punished for his actions. I'd rather save a dog than help you and your brother. Sophia cried, her face full of hurt as she slowly moved closer to me. She took out a room card and handed it to me, saying, Kaitong Hotel, room 1003. I'll be waiting for you. I snapped the room card in half and threw it at her face, saying with utter disdain, Sophia, you really have no shame. What kind of person do you think I am? Do you think I'm one of your nightclub customers? Even if you stood naked in front of me, I wouldn't have the slightest interest. A woman like you doesn't deserve to stand before me. With that, I called the security guards. Throw her out and remember her face. She's not allowed to step into this company ever again. As the two security guards dragged her out, Sophia's face turned red with anger, and she began to curse and scream like a shrew. She shouted, James, you heartless jerk. You won't help and let my brother go to jail. You'll pay for this. The next day, I made the headlines. The wealthy James family's young master, after failing to pursue a woman, conspired with others to frame her brother and send him to prison. The James family's young master, once a love-struck suitor, now seeks revenge on the woman. In front of the media, Sophia looked pitiful, accusing me of how I had pursued her and, when unsuccessful, retaliated by framing her brother and sending him to jail. She claimed I was morally corrupt and lawless, framing her just because I couldn't get what I wanted. Overnight, my mother sighed and looked worried, while my father contacted major public relations firms to delete the posts and reduce the heat. I waved my hand and said, I've done nothing wrong. I can handle this myself. Public opinion was divided into two extremes. There were those who despised the rich, standing on the moral high ground and acting as the voice of justice. They couldn't stand these rich second generations, thinking they didn't treat ordinary people as human beings. Good for the young girl, standing up for herself. It's outrageous. If he couldn't get her, he framed her. What's the difference between him and a beast? If it weren't for the law, Mr. James would probably just kidnap this young girl, right? Of course, there were also those who stood on my side. So wealthy, what woman can't he get? Framing someone just because he couldn't pursue her seems a bit far-fetched. I think this woman is more scheming. I heard her brother injured someone and was sued. What does that have to do with James? Did James hold his hand and make him hit someone? As an adult, one must be responsible for their actions. If you hurt someone, you should face legal punishment. Isn't that only fair? For a while, former classmates also began to reveal information. During school, I did indeed act like a love-struck fool, taking care of Sophia in every possible way, but she remained unmoved. Then I gave up and focused on charity work, feeding stray cats and dogs. Even when I supported Sophia and Mark, she took it for granted, accepting my kindness but refusing to be with me. These details were also uncovered by netizens. She used to pretend to be noble because James supported her and she had money to spend. Now that she can't make money on her own, she wants to turn back, but James has already moved on. Videos and photos of Sophia entertaining guests in the nightclub were also dug up by netizens, as well as Mark's usual behavior of hitting people and bullying the weak. More and more people began to condemn the siblings, and Sophia had only herself to blame. I released the video from my office that day, adding fuel to the fire. In no time, the siblings became utterly disgraced, like rats running through the streets, with everyone calling for their downfall. Sophia called me, her voice choked with tears, saying, James, are you trying to drive me to my death? Fine, I'll kill myself right now. I responded with a light laugh, Miss Sophia, you're joking. Whether you live or die has nothing to do with me. On the day of the cruise party, the ship was filled with elite members of society. Olivia stood beside me, mocking my past infatuation with Sophia and laughing heartily. James, I never expected you to be such a lovesick fool, almost falling for her tricks and unable to turn things around. I smiled and replied, Sophia doesn't have the ability to bring me down. However, at that moment, I couldn't help but feel anxious and uneasy inside. Olivia went to take photos on the cruise ship, leaving me sitting there in a daze. A waiter approached and refilled my glass with juice. I took a sip, and moments later, I felt dizzy and my body became unbearably hot. I instantly knew something was wrong, I had been drugged. I tried to shout, but my throat wouldn't make a sound. The waiter stepped forward, took my arm, and dragged me towards a room. Sorry, Mr. James, he said. After what felt like an eternity, we finally stopped in a room. The waiter laid me on the bed, and I struggled with all my might, but my body felt as heavy as lead. Good job. Did anyone see you? Here's your reward. Keep quiet, or I'll throw you into the sea to feed the fish, a familiar voice said. It was Sophia. Then everything went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, it was to the sound of loud chatter and the flash of cameras. A crowd of reporters had gathered at the door, their noisy voices causing a headache. "Mr. James, there's an anonymous report that you dragged Miss Sophia into the room with ill intentions. There's an anonymous accusation that you harassed Miss Sophia and threatened her." The door opened, and Olivia sat on the bed, looking annoyed. I was calmly straightening my clothes. Olivia shouted at the crowd, "Are you all blind? Who is Sophia?" "I'm Olivia, and it's only natural for me to be in bed with my fiancé. Is it illegal? Spreading rumors like this, what does it do to our families? Who organized this cruise event? Why are there so many reporters on board? If you dare to barge into my room again, I'll sue you." Everyone dispersed in a hurry. Mr. Robert, the organizer of the cruise event, stepped forward and apologized, saying it was all a misunderstanding. Looking at his insincere and ridiculous face, I couldn't help but sneer. This cruise event was clearly a trap set for me, aimed at ruining my reputation and bringing down the James family, so that the Robert family could take our place. Not long after Olivia left, I noticed a waiter acting suspiciously and decided to keep an eye on him. Olivia had seen me lose my senses after drinking the juice, so she called a few trusted friends to follow the waiter and me. When the waiter handed me over to Sophia, and she was about to take off my clothes, Olivia and her friends knocked both Sophia and the waiter unconscious. Sophia and the waiter were tied to the floor and confessed that everything was part of Robert's plan. Sophia thought that once the deed was done, with so many reporters present, it would be a done deal, and I would have no choice but to accept it. So she conspired with Robert to stage this drama. Sophia tearfully apologized to me, claiming she deeply regretted her actions and had been blinded by jealousy and hatred. But she wasn't truly remorseful, she regretted being caught. If it weren't for Olivia, they would have succeeded. It was truly terrifying and disgusting to think about. Although my crisis was resolved, Olivia's reputation was ruined because of this incident. She had to admit in front of everyone that she was my fiancé and was in bed with me. If I denied it, what would she do? Blushing, Olivia declared her love for me in front of both sets of parents. "Loving James is my own business and has nothing to do with him. If James doesn't love me, I won't force him. I volunteered to help him, and I don't value my reputation or use moral blackmail." My parents scolded me, saying that if I didn't marry her, I wouldn't be considered their son. I smiled faintly. How could I do such a thing? How could I be so ungrateful? I would propose to her and arrange a romantic wedding. Although I had always seen her as a younger sister for so many years, she had long since entered my heart. If I let go of a girl who loved me so much, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I gathered evidence to sue Sophia, but she begged me to let her go. Olivia and I exchanged glances and smiled slightly. "We can let you go, but you have to do something for us." 3 months later, the Robert family's conglomerate made the headlines for tax evasion, wage theft, and forcing employees to resign. Robert had also harassed Sophia and other female employees under him. In no time, the Robert family's stock prices plummeted to their lowest, while the James family soared. Robert was arrested for tax evasion, and I breathed a sigh of relief. "Robert, we had no grudges, yet you tried every means to harm me. This is your price to pay." Sophia sat on the sofa, her head down, and said indifferently, "Are you satisfied now?" It has to be said that Sophia was truly capable. In just 3 months, she managed to make Robert fall for her and obtained all the evidence of his company's crimes, as well as all his weaknesses. But Sophia was also truly ruthless. Even though Robert had fallen in love with her, she still delivered the fatal blow. Perhaps Robert couldn't understand until the very end why Sophia betrayed him. It was just like in the past with me. I loved Sophia so much that I was willing to give up everything for her. Even after discovering her infidelity and her using my money to support her lover, I still reflected on whether I had spent too little time with her, leading to her loneliness, emptiness, and mistakes. Sophia destroyed my family and caused my death, yet in my last moments, I was still waiting for her to appear. Sophia took over my house, spent my money, and lay in my bed with her lover, discussing whether to have a boy or a girl. Wasn't that an insult to me? People are always blind when they are in the situation and clear-headed when they are on the outside. She was calm and ruthless enough, and it was truly terrifying to have someone like her around. I threw $200,000 at Sophia and told her to leave the city and never see me again. Sophia looked up at me and asked, "Is there still a possibility between us?" I responded with a cold laugh, "Sophia, you know I wish you were dead." She nodded, took the money, and left without saying another word. On Olivia's birthday, I prepared a grand birthday banquet for her, inviting numerous elites and journalist friends. The scene was magnificent and grand. Olivia, dressed in a princess gown, linked her arm with mine, and her every smile and gesture resembled a princess from a fairy tale. Halfway through the birthday party, I took out the roses and ring I had prepared, knelt down on one knee, and solemnly confessed my love to Olivia, declaring my affection for her to the world. Our parents watched us happily from below, their faces beaming with joy. My mother took out a family heirloom jade bracelet and placed it on Olivia's arm, acknowledging her as the future daughter-in-law of the James family. The audience erupted in applause, with countless flashes of cameras focused on us. Olivia's expression changed from initial surprise to covering her mouth, tears streaming down her face in excitement. A photo of us was displayed on the stage, showing a young Olivia holding my hand, tilting her head and leaning on my shoulder, cute and elegant. Childhood sweethearts and innocent love are the most beautiful words to describe our love. The trending topics exploded. The James family and the Olivia family join in marriage, a strong alliance in business monopoly. I didn't care what the outside world said. Olivia and I were together purely out of love, with no connection to our families. Olivia leaned into my embrace and whispered into my ear that her childhood dream had always been to marry me. For a moment, I was dazed. Olivia had harbored a secret crush on me for so many years, silently loving me from a distance. Both families had said we would be husband and wife in the future. When she returned to the country, she was overjoyed, thinking we could finally be together. But I refused to even see her. Olivia thought she would get closer to me after returning, only to find out that I was getting married to another woman. How disappointed she must have been, yet she never said a bad word about me. Instead, she pretended to be casual, saying she understood and blessed me, hiding her love deep within her heart and never disturbing my life. During the 5 years I was married to Sophia, Olivia stayed out of my sight. It wasn't until my death in a car accident that she tearfully appeared at my memorial service, crying herself to exhaustion. And I was so blind that I didn't see Olivia standing behind me until my last breath. I touched Olivia's face, my eyes filled with tenderness, and said, "I'm sorry, little one." Olivia looked at me in confusion and said, "Huh?" I held Olivia tightly, wishing I could merge her into my body. "Olivia, I swear I will take good care of you, protect you for life, love you for life, and be your harbor and support." "I believe you," Olivia said, looking up at me with deep affection. We gazed into each other's eyes, the air filled with an intimate atmosphere. My heart beat faster and faster, and I gradually leaned in, kissing her lips. Fortunately, I had the chance to make a different choice, and fortunately, it was still not too late.